Hey, what's up, guys? This is Netta with Inner Peace with Netta, and on today's video, I will be talking about suffering. Okay, suffering and true freedom. So, I always got a story to tell, so I want to tell the story about my own suffering. So, first, let me talk about what suffering is. So, suffering is the pain that we inflict upon ourselves, or we allow others to inflict upon us, and we stay in it. We don't do anything about it, or we feel powerless, or we feel like we cannot, when suffering is honestly a choice. Okay, so I'm not talking about physical suffering of you're in bondage of some sorts physically to where you can't get out. I'm talking about more of mental suffering, because that's where you really suffer, is mentally. Okay, so there's a difference between this. I really wouldn't say suffering physically. If physically you may be in bondage or you may have pain, okay, but suffering is when you're resistant to doing something that you can. Resistance can cause suffering. Okay, so in my own life, or my journey as I am on, I have caused suffering in my life to the things that I was thinking, my attitudes, and me first and foremost not being present. So most of the time when people are suffering, they're focused on the pain of it may have been inflicted in the past, or they have this anxiety of pain in the future. Okay, so I was kind of both. Through my trauma that I had in the past, and then I had, it would be the past. So in my past childhood and my past adulthood, I was out of my body. I wasn't present. I thought I was present, but I wasn't present. And when I finally realized that a lot of times when I was in my head, okay, in my thoughts, my egoic mind, my feet would rise up off the floor. And this is if I'm sitting down. My feet would rise up off the floor. Even, they wouldn't rise up off the floor if I was standing, but I can feel myself not fully in my body. Or if I was sitting down, I can feel like a butt cheek moving up. Like I just feel my body lifting up, right? When I'm not present. So I was like, okay. Then learning about mindfulness, you have to be mindful of your thoughts and your actions and your emotions, and, and mindful living, because if you're not present, then you're in your head and you're allowing your thoughts to take you either to the past or the future, and you're not here now. And a lot of people who, and had pain or had trauma, stay in there, stay either in the past or they worried about the future. Now, I say suffering is a choice, because we have to learn to be mindful, and we have to learn to be present. If you're not present, you're going to cause worry and suffering on yourself. You're not living if you're not present. Okay? Because technically the past and the future is the present moment, is that now moment. Because today, right now, I'm recording. Tomorrow, this will be the past. And I'm setting up this video for tomorrow, which is the future. So what am I doing now that will set me up to be where I need to be, or whatever I need to accomplish right now in this moment? And that will add to the future. Okay? So that's why you have to be present now. I know a lot of times we have these goals and ambitions. And I'm not saying that not to strive, okay, to have the goals and ambition. It's just that we live in this world to where our ego tells us, then society, our egoic minds, the mass consciousness, right? We live in from such an egoic mind that has the negative self-talk. And it's nothing but a defense mechanism telling you what you should look like, how you should act, and basically adding things on top of your inner being that's not true to you. So when you're not being true to yourself, you are suffering, okay? And it's not a good feeling. And I can say it on my own self, because then you start making excuses. Oh, because in the past I was told this, or this happened to me, and this is why in the moment, right now, I'm not doing what I need to do, when it's actually just a thought form that your mind, your egoic mind, is having, and you engaged in it. And now you are all emotional, okay? And now you have this sadness, and you've just been triggered because right now in that moment, that past issue did not affect you, because the past cannot come to the, it can't come to the future. Your mind brought it up. Somewhere subconsciously, it's brought it up, and you engaged in it instead of watching it. Like, I always looked at my life as a movie, okay? So, you have to look at your life. When you having these thoughts, look at it as it's the recorded one. Your present is the actual movie that's live. You know, just think of it as a reality show that's not pre-recorded. So it's your live reality. The egoic thoughts, or all those thought forms that we have, just think of it as a movie that's already been recorded, edited, edited, directed, all that, okay? And it's just coming through your mind. You do not engage in it. You know, like if you're watching a movie, you're like, oh, I know she didn't just do that. I know he didn't. Don't engage in them thoughts. Because then it's like you're there when you're supposed to be here. Okay? And I know all about that. Like, you can lose a lot of time. It stresses you out. And myself, I'm an organized person. And I just, at one point, I was just so stuck in my thoughts because I had went through something traumatic, and I just wasn't in my body, and I just let it just take over. I was just like, no, I'm done, and I gave up. So I kept using that as an excuse to where, not saying that what happened wasn't a trauma or tragedy. I was trying to act like it didn't happen. Then it was just a bunch of my fears came up that I didn't deal with. So that's another thing. I wasn't dealing with things. I was very avoidant. And then I had just thoughts coming up like, hey, remember me? So instead of me engaging in them, I can write them down and say, okay, this is what's coming up. Deal with it. What inner work do I have to do to deal with that so that I can be present? You may have thoughts about the future that didn't happen. And I'm not talking about when we use our mind constructively and we're manifesting and doing like a visualization or something like that. No, because you have to be present. And you have to know what you're, visualizing, what you're manifesting. Like, that's a whole different ballgame. And if you're visualizing and creating something, you ain't using your egoic mind, because it's going to distort it. And it's going to have this negative visualization. So, long story short, you are not your mind. Okay? I know a lot of times when I talk about Christ consciousness or divine mind, divine consciousness, but that's not your egoic mind. You are not this mind that, with all that chatter. A lot of us have never been present. Our minds and our thoughts, most of the time, is habitual. Like, when do we think of a new thought? Like, what is your new habits? This is why habits is hard to, old habits die hard, long story short. So, when we consistently doing the same thing, your mind is already, trained to think that, or to do that, or react and respond a certain way. So when you have emotions and just, certain emotions, anger, sadness, like, you have to become aware of it. And I've become so aware to where I'm like, okay, if I'm not being present, I can tell when I'm not in my body. Because when you're in your body, right, you feel grounded. And if you ever felt energy with the crystal, or just like rub your hands together and like do this, you'll feel some form of energy. That's what you will feel inside of your whole body. Or if you are familiar with crystals, and you can feel the energy in crystals, you can feel that in your whole body, and it's like a warmth that you can feel, right? That's when you're being with your inner being within. We still have to be in our body, and I'm not talking about just your flesh, bone, and muscle. I'm talking about within. So you have to be grounded within, and you have to be here in the present and now. You can't be thinking about what you're going to do tomorrow, and because it does not matter right now. Not, we can do brain dumps. You can prepare for tomorrow. You could write out your schedule, things like that, because that's something that you plan to do today anyway, to set yourself up. Because the present, the now, is both the past and the future. I made this video today. When I upload it and it plays tomorrow, it will be the past. So right now, I'm setting something up for the future. Tomorrow, it will be the present, and it will also be the past. If that makes sense. It would be the future, present, and past, technically. But honestly, there's really no past or future. There's just the present. So what you do today will set you up for your future. Okay? So, when you're stuck in the past, you are hindering your present and technically your future, because your present is all you have now. What do you need to do right now? And most of us, we doing things so that we can do, set it up for the future. But we need to, even if we're not doing something, preparing for tomorrow, what do you need to do now that will uplift you, elevate you, and be, so that you could be in your inner being, so you could be grounded in the now? What do you need to do for yourself? Or whatever, for someone else. Being present right now. What moments can you enjoy right now? What food do you want to eat right now? Not tomorrow, right now. What do you want to do right now? Right now. If you're unhappy with something, what can you do right now? Maybe physically you cannot do something right now. Then you have to accept it. And this is where the suffering comes, because I feel like I caused a lot of suffering on a whole lot of stuff I wouldn't accept. Because when I first started on my journey, I was like, oh, manifestation, we can have anything we want, which I truly believe. But Also, there is divine timing, which has nothing to do with how we conceptualize time. Okay? Yes, we have the whole clock time, but the psychological time of past and future is not in the spiritual realm. So, I wouldn't accept certain things because I never wanted to even be in the present. I never wanted to be in the now. And I caused a lot of my own suffering. And I always was striving because when I get here and I do this and I do that, and then it's like I kept striving for more and getting more and more, and then it's just you ain't never satisfied. Hello. Not saying that I wasn't grateful. I was just saying, well, there's more to me, and I'm always listening, be your best self and your potential self. And it's I kept trying to fix something that wasn't broken. So I'm always in my head, but I felt within me, it was little pieces of me that I didn't heal and I didn't forget. So I don't like to say I was broken inside, because I'm not broken, I'm whole. But there was a lot of emotions and past things that I didn't allow to heal and didn't want to face. And I just kept, just avoiding it, because I'm you know what, it's the past, it doesn't matter. But when it was coming through my thoughts and in my head, I was engaging in it. So obviously, I wasn't facing my fears. There was something coming up that I didn't realize that I wasn't facing. So it kept coming up for me, kept coming up. And I was causing my own suffering because I wasn't dealing with it. Like I said, you have to be the watcher of the movie. Don't be the star. We are the star cast member in our reality show, the now. But when that movie is playing, do not be the star. Don't be any type of cast member. Just be the watcher. Just be just watch the movie and ignore it. Now, I'm not saying don't write down. I would tell you to write them down, because maybe there is something in it and it's hidden underneath it. Ignore them. Learn to ignore them. And I'm saying ignore them by don't engage in it, because what we focus on, it will magnify. So I can tell you this, because when I used to engage in it, it used to take hella energy out of me. So if it was something from the past and that was really bad and I engaged in it, and I'm going to be honest with y'all, I know people out there is engaging in their thoughts, and I'm not the only one who was talking. I was talking to myself in my head. Okay, it was a difference between me and my spiritual gifts and me having that inner knowing. And my egoic mind, it was just a whole different ballgame. A whole different ballgame, okay? So where I'm having conversations and fights in my mind. If you feel like fighting somebody in your head and you're engaging in it, that's taking so much energy from you. If you're arguing with someone, it's taking energy. That's just bringing your vibration down. We came here to elevate. You have to elevate your consciousness. You have to elevate you just have to elevate. Elevate it. You want to think constructively and creatively and organize your thoughts. It was to a point to where I had to lay down and go to sleep sometimes because I couldn't function. I used to, just be crying, and I used to be angry, and it used to just make it worse. I was just breaking stuff and just be mad that I had to clean it up, and then be mad that I gotta buy new stuff, to where I just stopped. I had to stop, and I had to find a new way to stop from the suffering. And it's just to be present. Now, if something triggered me, I had to learn to not respond and react, or either respond to it, period, or either react to it, period. Just breathe and ask myself, like, where are you? Because if I was to get triggered and snap, that means I'm not in the present moment. Because in the present moment, and if, there's not a problem, that means I'm being triggered by something that has already happened. So that means there was never really a problem. Now I'm being taken back to something that happened in the past. So technically, in this moment, it was never a problem. I just got triggered and just basically allowed my mind to take control of me. You become a puppet to your mind. You become enslaved to your mind. And true freedom is you, but losing that enslavement, not becoming a slave to your mind. You go within to the inner master and your inner being within. But you got to be present, okay? You can't be with your thoughts all over the place. You have to be present. And we live in a society that puts stuff in media that scares the crap out of people. This is why we have racism. This is why we have all the types of isms. Because someone always in their mind has a problem. Yes, we will have situations and we will have challenges. But it's nothing that we cannot, I don't feel like it's nothing that we cannot resolve. But we have ego. And I can tell you from my own life, like certain situations, say in my past relationships, I allowed my ego, and maybe the other person allowed their ego. Let me just talk about myself. So, to where I allowed my ego to, like, I would shut the person down. Like, I don't want to hear it. I don't care. I don't care. That was my avoidant attitude. I don't care. And I will cut you off instead of, really expressing what I felt. But in my mind, I was ruminating, like, I know this person ain't just do this. And I know they ain't just say that. Instead of me just allowing myself room to grow and just say whatever I had to say in that moment. That's what apologies is for, So if I would have just snapped, not saying that we should be out here snapping on people, but if I just would have went off without really snapping, and I'm not talking about physically, I'm just talking about like yelling or really saying what I needed to say, then I wouldn't have been suffering in my head. But that was the issue that I had, because I was, I had this issue to where I felt like my emotions and what I said didn't matter. So I was always ruminating in my head like, oh, okay, I'm ruminating in my head to, if this happens again. So now I'm conjuring up something in the future because something in the past and I'm not present. And it's just anxiety, worry, and then it just fluctuates between depression and anxiety. And like I said, the media will tell you what you need to look like, how much money you need to have. Oh, it's a crisis here, there. Let me tell you something. There's atrocities everywhere, but you don't see them. There's atrocities everywhere. And I'm not justifying any atrocity because it's disgusting how, a lot of humans treat each other. But that's a whole different story. But we all, like I said, we have to do the inner work. But we also need to get out of our egoic mind. And I also learned that, being in business or just being a coach and a teacher, like, even if I have these insecurities, I still have to break through them because I still have people to serve. I still have, you know, people who needs my help. I still have to be resourceful. So if I stay in my insecurities, that's going to be a form of selfishness. Now, I know people out here with low self-esteem and stuff, and a lot of people, you know, that's a process. So I'm not, you know, I've came from low self-esteem, learning how to love myself and having self-respect for myself. And it's a continuous journey because, you know, the boundaries and all that. So, and seeing what works for you. But after a while, when you're doing it consistently, okay, and you going through different challenges in life, you're going to have to break through each of those fears. It's always going to be a different fear that's higher. So either you're going to sit in your self-pity and suffer, or you're going to break through those fears. But in order to do all of that, you have to be present. You cannot be in your head. Okay? So you have to control your mind. If your ego is watching social media, if your mind, that's all you do is watch social media and compare yourself, or this person got this, and you got shiny object syndrome. That's all your mind is habitually, that's what you're programming your mind to. And that's why it's good to do a detox. All this stuff on TV and the media, I can't tell you, I swear I was probably like in 3rd grade, the last time I've seen consistently, okay, some positive reinforcement in the media about local communities or just anything positive about humanity that was consistent, like hourly. Okay? Now, all you see is drama. Drama. That should raise a light bulb. Because there's a whole lot of great things that is happening. But there's media outlets as well who programs people and plays on people's minds and know that people are going to be in their head when we're supposed to be within. No other person is going to free you from your suffering. You have to do it. You are powerful. You are real power. There's nothing outside of you that's more powerful than the master within you. So you have to break out of that suffering, whether it's generational from your family and things that you learned, you indoctrinated and domesticated yourself with, things from society, all those isms that we have in society. You have to really say to yourself, is this my truth? Is this for me? Am I going to sit here and suffer for something that was done in the past? Is this an issue in my life? Is it causing any conflict in my life right now? And if it is, then what can you do right now to stop it? And if you can't, at that moment, then you have to accept it, right? And then the next moment, the next present moment, maybe this, when you're inside, when you're in your inner being does not want you to suffer. Your inner being wants you to grow and elevate. So you will get that intuitive, inspired answer and response, but you just have to be in tune. And a lot of us is not in tune. Because we're not taught that. We're taught to live outside in instead of inside out. So that's how, things in this world today. And it's just like, you see stuff in the media and different people doing things to people. It's because the mind is people trying to, program other people's minds. But you gotta really be in tune with yourself to say, is this like even real? Is this true? It's our own responsibility for ourselves. And then if you got children, you're responsible for them and how they think. And this is where I talk about living in fear or in love. So, living in the present, because I was like, wait a minute, there's no past and no future. But then I was like, okay, the present, that makes total sense, right? But then you can't really like intellectualize it either. You only can really do it for yourself. But like I said, you don't want to be in your mind. You are not your thoughts, okay? But your thoughts, actions, and emotions does affect your reality that you live in. That's why it's for you to control your mind. Don't fight against it, and you're controlling it by ignoring it. Ignoring those egoic thoughts. When you ignore something and you don't pay attention to it, eventually it's going to go away. You know, that's like you ignoring someone that, you know, maybe got on your nerves, or maybe y'all went on a date and they just like blew your mind. And you was just like, nah. Or should I say, they blew minds, right? Because it's not blew your mind, and blew minds is different, right? So they blew minds means they annoyed you. And so you ignore them, okay? Say if you ghost someone, ghost them thoughts. Just ghost them. Don't ruminate in them, ghost them thoughts. If you need to write them down and see what they're, mean to you, maybe you have some fears, like I said before, ghost them. Ghost them. They will disappear. They will disappear. Ignore them. Ghost them. Eventually, they're going to be gone. So just ghost them. Ignore them. Don't engage in them. Watch them, but don't engage them. And don't engage in them. Because sometimes if you ghost people, some people be like, hey, what happened? And you just, no sound, no response, no nothing. But you still see that it's still coming up. You just ghost them. And I'm not out here telling people, don't be ghosting people. I'm just giving an example. So, just ghost your thoughts. Don't ghost people. Ghost them thoughts, okay? So, don't engage in them. And then once you start building up new habits and you're being present, your mind, you're building constructive habits and a mindset and creative. And then that's when you can use your mind for constructive things and, creativity. And you will release yourself from that suffering. A lot of us feel like because we did this for so long. No, it don't work like that. Like, you're responsible for your life. If something's not working, you can change it, even though it may be hard. So, a book that I would tell you to get in mind is The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. Okay? I'm not finished yet, but I am on the chapter where he talks about, I'm almost to chapter 7. So this book is about 200, let me not even say about, let me tell you. It's 236 pages. I'm on page 123, okay? This book is something that you would read over and over again, to really understand. And when you release yourself out of suffering, and you're present, you're in your enlightenment. So I will make another video about enlightenment, but you can't be suffering and then being enlightened at the same time, okay? And you can achieve enlightenment in this life. It's not anything that you achieve. We already have it. We have to tap in. We have to be present in it. To tap into that divinity within you, you have to be present to it. If you're in the past or the future, then you're not tapping into the divinity within you. And of course, I would tell y'all too, is meditation. It's not about quieting your mind. It's about observing the thoughts until your mind quiets. And then all the extra juicy stuff comes. You know, sometimes you have visions and things like that. But you got to have your mind quiet. You know, any spiritual gifts that I'm talking about, or things like channeling, like Abraham Hicks. Your mind, you have to be present, and your mind has to be focused, and you have to be constant. You have to concentrate. You have to concentrate, and you have to be focused in the present now. Because in me developing my spiritual gifts and my psychic skills, it's like seeing an aura. Your mind can't be all over the place. You have to be still. Your mind, you have to be present. And then it's like a change. I don't know how to explain it. It's just like you're so super present. Like when you're seeing an aura, you're just like, oh. And maybe that's how I feel now, because I'm learning and I'm still, developing my skills. But even certain, like me, when I see energy, I have to be super focused, super present. Like, so this is the end of this video. But yes, that's what suffering is, and true freedom is becoming the true master of your mind, like releasing those thoughts and actually, allowing your inner being to guide you. Whatever is not serving you and you stay in it, that is you choosing to suffer, and that's you choosing to be in your mind. So it does take, I'm not going to sit here and say it takes a long time. I would say set the intention and start becoming aware. And you can feel it in your body. When you in your mind, your body will feel some type of way. If you get angry or anxious or sad, your body will tell you. So just listen to your body. And when you feel like them negative thoughts or those you're about to engage, just stop yourself. Go eat a piece of ice or something, or like pinch your skin, bite your tongue, whatever you need to do. Yank your ear, pull your ponytail, whatever you need to do in that moment to make you more aware. Then your mind is going to be like, oh, what they doing? And you're going to be aware. So you have to put more effort in. At first I was like, oh, this is taking over my life. But it's just like, no, once you're aware of it, it's just like, and don't judge yourself. Please don't judge yourself and be critical, because you're going to make it worse. Just watch it like you're watching your own movie, but don't engage in it. Okay? So I love you guys. I'll talk to y'all later. Peace. Like, share, and subscribe.